Aloha, welcome to Walk, Bike, Drive, a presentation by the Hawaii Bicycling League, also known as HBL. HBL is a non-profit organization whose mission is to enable more people to ride bikes for health, recreation, and transportation. And we do all of that through advocacy, events, and education. In fact, Walk, Bike, Drive is one of those education programs, and it's a great example of how HBL's focus on safer streets is not only for bicyclists, it's also for pedestrians and motorists. All of us share the same public roadways. And throughout this presentation, as you hear the terms pedestrian, cyclist, and motorist, it's important to realize that those terms are not exclusive, which means most of us don't belong to only one of those categories. We belong to multiple categories. It just depends on the day and time. So whether you're out there driving a car or riding a motorcycle or moped or bicycle or walking along as a pedestrian, your safety in all of those roles is our concern. And that concern is data-driven with statistics from state and federal agencies. And since this is a Walk, Bike, Drive presentation, let's start by taking a look at the data for pedestrian safety. In the most recent time period for which we have this data, non-fatal pedestrian injuries in Hawaii generally occurred on public roadways, resulting in numerous emergency department visits and hospitalizations per year, with an average length of 1 to 9 days and an average cost of roughly $3,000 to $60,000. Pedestrian fatalities also generally occurred on public roadways, with an average of 26 per year across the state, and with Oahu having more of those fatalities than each of the outer islands. Contributing factors in the pedestrians and drivers for whom we have matching state and federal data show pedestrians and these fatalities were affected by substance use, improper street crossing procedures, walking or standing in the road, not paying attention, and darting or running into the road. Drivers were also affected by not paying attention, substance use, and failure to yield, excessive speed, and reckless or aggressive driving, all of which simply illustrates that safety is a shared responsibility, in this case between motorist and pedestrian. We also see a similar pattern happen with bicycling. During the same time period, non-fatal bike injuries in Hawaii also resulted in numerous emergency department visits and hospitalizations per year, with an average length of 1 to 5 days and an average cost of around $2,000 to $36,000. Bike fatalities in Hawaii generally involved a motor vehicle, with an average of 3 per year across the state, and with Oahu again leading the way. Contributing factors for the cyclists and drivers in these fatalities included in both groups substance use and failure to yield, while the cyclists also had riding on the wrong side of the road, and drivers again had speeding. This reinforces the concept of safety being a shared responsibility, in this case between motorists and cyclists. Of course, looking at this image, we all know that cars are a lot larger and heavier than bicycles, and pedestrians for that matter, which brings us to the topic of legal protection for vulnerable users, a group that includes cyclists and pedestrians and folks using mobility devices and folks working in the roadways. These laws mandate felony convictions and increase penalties for killing or seriously injuring these vulnerable users. Again, that's a group that includes pedestrians, cyclists, moped riders, people using mobility devices, folks working in the roadway, and public safety personnel. And this leads us to the question, well, how can we reduce these injuries and fatalities and penalties? And we'll be taking a look at that in the next segment.